Welcome to Studio 14's Overton County Magazine. I'm your host, Jerry Stovall. Overton County Magazine is a show designed to bring our viewers a look at some of the interesting as well as informative people and events occurring in and around Overton County. Some of our stories are videotaped on location, while others will be brought to you straight from Studio 14. So why don't we all sit back, relax, and thumb through this week's magazine. If someone gave you an hour to buy a railroad car, where would you go? Muddy Pond, where else? Okay, today we're over here at Muddy Pond and at Leslie Bowman's place. And it looks like we've got quite a few motor cars still left and 2 cabooses. I think over the past years he sold off most of his regular railroad cars, but for those railroad buffs out there, there's still some items over here. Take, for example, this fine example of an old motor car. Of course, I grew up in a railroad family, and I have a little bit of feeling for these things. My dad used to come in every day and talk about particular trains that broke down and why they broke down. But this is a car that the fellows went out actually on the line, repaired the tracks, the signals, and things like that. And they had their place. They were an important part of the railroad.
Twin fiddles play the two-step on the floor, we're all alone. The way she fits against me is like I've known her all along. The music from the band becomes a lover's rhapsody.
Hey, in case you think tonight's guest is Mel Tillis, well, we don't want to disappoint you, so we won't. Tonight's guest is a fellow that's made it in the music business, and he's still striving. Jim Bowman's the fellow.
How you doing, Jerry? I'll try to stutter. I'll do my best to.
Okay, well, I do a good job of that, so you're going to have to run me some competition. But, okay, tonight we want to talk a little bit about your career in music and how you got started and what you're doing, what you've been doing. So let's just start at the beginning. Okay, Jim, actually, when did you start in the music business then?
That's a tough question. I think I got my first guitar when I was about 9 years old, and my sister and I started singing in churches before I was 10, and I think a lot of people in this area are familiar with the Loopers. They were real good friends of mine, and being in church with them and stuff, I kind of started playing with them around and played bass with them for a while when Furl quit, and we went even on the road some and played some gospel music, and for a few years there, that's what I did. And it kind of developed into a love for country music, just like every movie you've ever seen.
Well, that's good. Now this is when you actually started, but now as far as...
It's been a long, hard road. It's just like the nitty-gritty dirt band song.
But the part where you got into it to make money now, where'd that start?
Well, I don't understand that. Never made any money at it, too.
Well, trying to make money.
That's not true. Music business is funny, and until you make it all the way, there's no halfway point. It's something that you love to do, and it's hard to explain it to someone who is not into the music and who doesn't understand how you can sacrifice and live on. I had the IRS call me in one time. We'd been playing in a club, and the lady who played the keyboards for me had not been filing on the money that I paid her. And the question they asked me is, you expect me to believe that you live on this amount of money? And it was the truth. You know, if it wasn't for an understanding wife who has stood behind me all the way, sometimes it would be very hard. But it's got better through the years, and I hope it keeps getting better. I've met a lot of good people. I've done a lot of things that people dream of doing. And when I try to explain it to people, I tell them there's a fire here. Sometimes that fire burns low, but it's always there. The embers are there, and sometimes it kindles up, and it's peaks and valleys. And sometimes you're on top, more often you're down at the bottom, but it's just something that I know I have to do.
Whether you make money or not, you have to do it.
Money or
Well,
no money. Well, hopefully it's there on the next peak.
Yeah, of course, that normally you call that a hobby, but you try to make it a business, you know. But that's interesting. I've known a few people in the music businesses, and they never made it as far as you did, and they struggled for years.
I've talked to a lot of actors and actresses and stuff, and they kind of feel the same way. It's kind of, well, I believe that no matter what you do, if you're a ditch digger, if you're a street sweeper, I think that's what you was intended to be, if it's what you love to do. And I feel like it's a God-given talent, and that it's intended to be, and I wouldn't be doing my part if I didn't persevere.
Well, that's good. I'll tell you what, it's got to be rough. It really does. This is perfect country for it. In the 14 years I've been down here, it's really came on. It's kind of what you might say, country's cool now, and it wasn't before. And there's a lot of people in the business. But okay, you've had some other songs that have made the charts, I think, and we'd kind of like to take a look at one segment here, or have you sang one song. This other one, I believe, is, what's the name of it?
There's a song called Breakaway that charted for me. And funny story about that thing, the fellow that produced the album told me he was going to release 2 singles off the album. And he released the song, and I didn't even know that it had been in the charts until it went out of the charts. Had I known it, I probably could have put some money into it, which is what you do, and floated it on up the charts like you're supposed to do. But I didn't even see the charts until after it had already come back out.
So you actually have to put money into it to help
somebody
along.
does. Money is the name of the game.
Oh boy. Well, of course, now we've passed over our introductory segment here of Cowboy's Dream with Mel Tillis and
that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and somebody that pretty well slinks across the floor in that particular thing, and I think grabs everybody's eye. Actually, how did you get this one on the charts?
Well, that's another long story. We wouldn't have time to go through everything, but one of the acquaintances I've made in country music is a real good friend of mine. He's more than a protege. He's a friend who I can't say enough about him. He's a songwriter by the name of Wayne Carson. Wayne, if you remember the old song, The Letter, that was out years and years ago, that's one of his songs. He was one of the 3 co-writers on Always on My Mind by Willie Nelson. He had a song called The Clown by Conway Twitty. Gary Stewart had, I think, 11 #1 records, and Wayne wrote 7 of them. But he's a real good friend of mine, and he's been trying to help me some for a few years. And one evening I was at his house. We were sitting around picking, which we did quite a bit. I was listening to his new songs, and he was listening to mine. And a little fellow across the hall came over, and he was sitting around listening. And when everything kind of died down, he said, see, you have a cowboy hat there, and you're wearing cowboy boots, which I do a lot. He said, I've got an idea for a song I'd kind of like to write. And he said, I think maybe if we'd get together sometime, we could write it. And I said, shoot, let's just write it now. And we went over to his apartment, and in about 20 minutes, we cranked her out. And we came back across the hall, and there was a fellow there by the name of Flash Gordon. If you look on Alabama's last album, F. Gordon is Flash Gordon. He's a character himself. Anyway, he was there at the apartment, and he said, I've been pitching Mel Tillis some songs today. And he said he pretty well has his album together. And I found out that Mel had listened to over 500 songs. And he said, if you don't care, he said, I'll pitch that song for you. And I said, go ahead and pitch it. And I'd probably done that 100 times with other songs and forgot about them and never could sing them again if I had to. But in about 2 weeks, I got a phone call, and they said, Mel's cutting our song on his album tonight. Do you want to come down? I said, sure. So there we had an album cut. It was on the Middle of the Night album. In the Middle of the Night came out. It ran for about 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks. And I got another phone call and said, our song's going to be the next single. So I was flying. I thought, well, finally, here's a break. And then, as if that weren't enough, I got a call and said, Mel's doing a video of our song. Would you like to come down and be at the taping? And I said, I'll be there. And it was just a lot of fun.
That's good. I'll tell you what, that's what it takes really to do it.
It was that lucky break you hear so much about.
Yeah. Well, maybe it'll be a step for some more.
Oh, it's definitely opened doors. It's a lot easier to get in to see people if you have some credentials.
Yeah, I don't doubt that a bit. Okay, well, I'll tell you, that's interesting. It really is the way, actually, you try hard for years and years, and then just through a few coincidences, you end up with a song on the charts. So that is good. All right, now let's kind of take a look at your song here that we were talking about, and get you to sing this for us, and see how it comes out.
Be glad to.
I had the pleasure of co-writing the song with my buddy Mark Hauser. Do this for Mark in case he's watching.
Some say we'll make a reunion, others say I will forget. I'd be better off either way, your memory hasn't left me yet. Some say that time will heal the pain, I pray to God that it's true. I can't live this way that I'm feeling after loving you. Friends tell me to find another, that somewhere there's someone for me. So I go out and I look all about, your face is all I ever see. You took my heart and you broke it apart. Now what am I supposed to do? No one wants this old shattered heart after loving you. After loving you, I feel so helpless. After loving you, no one else will do. I don't mean to sound like I'm selfish, even though I know that it's true. What I'm trying to say is, if there was a way, I wish I could be loving you. Some say our love was a contest, and you were always keeping score. You've gone on the winner now, and left me here all alone on the floor. I can't believe that it's all over, that the final count is through. If you think our love deserves a rematch, baby, you can count on me loving you. After loving you, I feel so helpless. After loving you, no one else will do. I don't mean to sound like I'm selfish, even though I know that it's true. What I'm trying to say is, if there was a way, I wish I could be loving you. What I'm trying to say is, if there was a way, I wish I could be loving you.
Okay, we got a good sample of what Jim can do on that song he sang there. So we'll talk a little more here now about what he's did in the past years. So I believe you told me that WDEB in Jamestown was one of the places you worked.
A lot of people in Overton County listen to DEB. I used to talk to them every day when I do the old-fashioned gospel hour.
Oh, heck. Yeah. That's good. And how long were you there?
Off and on, I did about 5 years at DEB. Some fine folks up there. Turk Baz is the owner of the station, and some really good people.
Okay, and then I understand from there you went to WSMT, was it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you spent, what, 2 years there?
I was program director. That's in Sparta.
Okay.
It's one of the oldest radio stations. I think WHUB in Cookeville is the oldest in Middle Tennessee, and WSMT was the second oldest. When they went on the air, there's some funny stories about it. When they first went on the air was back in the days before records, and groups would come in with their guitars and fiddles and banjos, and they'd do 30 minutes, and people would write letters in, and whoever got the most letters would make the most money. and get the best sponsors. And there's a fellow over there they call Herman the Hound. And one of the funny stories about it was back in the Cuban Missile Crisis. A fellow that owned the station came in to work one day and said Herman was sitting there and said he had a rifle in one corner and a shotgun in the other corner, and said the first thing they're going to do when they come in is take the radio stations, and they're not taking this one without a fight.
I'll tell you what, I hate to say it, but I can remember that crisis at that time. But it did. It upset a lot of people. There was a lot of us that were concerned over it. Okay, let's talk about Ralph Emery. I think you were telling me that you played on Ralph Emery for a few times.
I did a bunch of Ralph Emery shows. It's been a few years now, but it amazes me the number of people that are up at 5:30 in the morning watching TV, and they'll say, "Hey, I saw you on TV this morning." And when I was doing that, I was alternating. Carl Tipton was on the other channel. And I would go over and do Carl's show one week, and the next week I'd be back and do Ralph's show. And it was once a week I was driving to Nashville to do a couple songs. And it's tough to get up and drive for a couple hours, go in and do 2 songs. And by the time you get woke up, the show's over.
Well, I'll tell you what, I got hooked on Ralph Emery show, I guess, when I moved down here. I lived way out where TV was hard to get, and that was one of the few things I could get. And I did rise early, and it's entertainment. It's real entertainment.
Yes,
you get to see a lot of people that are starting in the business, and some of the older ones in the business.
I've been doing some shows lately with Tom Grant. He's a good fellow.
Is he? He seems like it on
Surely
TV.
is.
I didn't know whether he was or not. Well, that's good. Okay, you don't do any more Ralph Emery, right?
Well, I haven't in a while. I've been thinking about starting back, but it's hard to get up that early and sing.
I'd say it is. Well, especially if you travel from here.
And the vocal cords don't wake up until about noon anyway.
Yeah, there's a lot of them on there that sound pretty rough in the morning. Okay, now, I believe you do have some things you've collected over the years. From
Yeah, I brought a couple
different,
things here that I thought people might be interested in seeing. Some things that I told you I met a lot of people, and I'm more of a fan than anything. I worked at Opryland for a while. I was a radio dispatcher for the park, the second season there. And one of the people I met and got to know was Roy Acuff, the king of country music. And I told him I was a collector of things from the stars. And what do you get from Roy Acuff but a yo-yo? This is an electric yo-yo that Roy used on the Opry. He actually spun it on the Opry stage, and he gave me that. I'm real proud of that.
Well,
Everybody has heard about Tootsie's Orchid Lounge, and if you're a country music singer, one of the things you do is you go to Tootsie's, or you used to. Things have changed a lot in Nashville now. But I got to know Tootsie best, and she was a really good person, and she helped a lot of people in the music business. And I got down there in time I got to do the Ernest Tubb Record Shop on Lower Broadway when it was there. And Tootsie put my record on the jukebox. And one evening I had her to, at that time Lone Star beer wasn't in Tennessee, but you could get it at Tootsie's, and this can was sitting there. And I asked her for an autograph, and she put it on this Lone Star can. It says 12/20/75. Tootsie died of cancer, and a lot of people miss her. I have a whole collection of picks. I'll just pull out a couple of them here that I'm real proud of. I don't know if you can see these or not. They're personalized picks. They have the name on the picks. This is Merle Haggard. It says Haggard and the Strangers on there. I got that when I was working at Opryland. I met Merle. This is from Buck Owens. Has his name on the pick. And also at the same time I met Buck at a taping of Hee Haw. And at that time, Don Rich was playing with him. And I'm real proud of this because about 2 weeks after it has his name there, if you can see it, Don Rich, Don was killed in a motorcycle crash. And I wouldn't take anything for that. I don't know, the old-timers will remember, the younger people might not, but ask you last evening if you knew who D. Ford Bailey was.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that.
I wasn't familiar with D. Ford Bailey, and my dad used to talk about hearing him on the Opry. And D. Ford Bailey was the first black man to ever play on the stage of the Opry. And he was a young man when he was doing it. If you remember the old song Fox Chase, that was his trademark. He would come on and do Fox Chase. And when I was at Opryland, I worked with D. Ford Bailey Jr. And I told him, I said, gosh, I'd like to meet your dad. And he arranged that, and it was shortly before he died. And he gave me this harmonica that he actually used to play on the Opry. This is an antique. And if you go to the Roy Acuff Museum, you'll see the box that this is supposed to be in, but the harmonica's not there. I have that. But that's an antique harmonica. And a newer harmonica I have that I'm real proud of was given to me by Charlie McCoy. Mr. Harmonica himself. This is a Horner A harmonica that he's used. And I have all kinds of stuff like that that I've collected over the years. The only person I ever asked for anything that he wouldn't give it to me was Chet Atkins. And I met Chet in the elevator one day at the RCA building and asked him for a pick. And he said, the company that makes my picks is out of business, and he said, I have a limited supply. And so he's the only person that ever turned me down. But it's just some things that
That's interesting. So you got one here, fella. Oh, that's yours there, isn't it? Yeah, you might have to put your name on it to collect it. Okay, yeah, you do have some things there, don't you? Tom T. Hall, you got a pick from him. You got quite a few in there. That's interesting. What the cigar you have in the box now? Where'd that come from?
that's an Archie Campbell original.
Archie
there.
Campbell.
Yeah, we did some shows in Gatlinburg with Archie. He's real big up there, and that's one of Archie's hee-haw cigars there. You see, the big ones.
Yeah, he seems like a nice fellow too. Okay, well, I'll tell you what. I believe we're going to wind this down a little bit. I'm not sure how our time's running here, but is there anything you can add? You're bound to have millions of stories. Oh, one that I remember you mentioned to me was that you played the Singing Sheriff somewhere.
Oh, I played those things all over. I played for a while at Ghost Town, the Sky. I played at Frontierland. I played at Tombstone Junction. I've been Singing Sheriff. I've been the Outlaw. Had a lot of gun battles. I learned how to fall off a building without hurting myself.
Did you?
Yeah, how to do a good dying scene. It was a lot of fun. Silver Dollar City was probably my favorite because I was the marshal there, and I had to ask the kids in the audience to be my posse. And I have some stories to tell about that. You know, they would squirt you with squirt guns and kick you in the shin and stick their chewing gum on you, just everything. But it was a lot of fun.
Well, Jim, I want to thank you for being here tonight and telling us a little bit about your career and everything you did in the music business. And hopefully before you go, I'd like to see you sing another song for us.
Okay, I'll be glad to. I'd like to say that everywhere I go and Channel 14's there, I always have to sing the praises. I'm real excited about the things that this channel is doing for the county. And we were laughing, talking, looking at some tapes earlier. If you'll notice, a lot of the same faces are showing up, but they're dressing nicer.
Yeah,
so
they are.
That's one good thing about the channel here, and this program is going to be something good that people, I hope they'll watch for every week.
Oh, good. Okay, let's see what you can do on this other song.
Be glad to.
The everyday grind is laying heavy on our minds. It's all we can do to get by. Still every other day someone calls up to say that a payment's a few days behind. I work the night shift, you work the days. We never see each other and still we can't keep the bills paid. We've got to break away, spend some time together. We've got to break away. We can't live like this forever. Something's wrong, this is not what we planned. Whatever happened to our dreams? We've got to break away. We've got to break away. We've got to break away. Let's do it today. Maybe we'll go down to Acapulco and dance under Mexican skies. Or maybe we'll just lay down by the ocean, make love as the big ships sail by. We'll lose all the things our money has bought us, but money can't buy us love. This life that we're living with no time for each other, somehow it's just not enough. We've got to break and spend some time together. We've got to break away. We can't live like this forever. Something's wrong, this is not what we planned. Whatever happened to our dreams? We've got to break away. We've got to break away. We've got to break away. Let's do it today. Let's do it today.
If it's 0 outside, you were working on a railroad, and it was about 12 o'clock at night, you just went up and checked to see a hot box on one of the cars. Where would you want to go? Where else? The caboose. This is where the fellows came when they decided to have a meal or warm up. You always had a hot stove going back here in the caboose. Usually there was a meal sitting on the stove. So the brakeman, the fireman, even the engineer on the siding, he'd come back here and get him a bite to eat. This is where the fellow would sit up there on top, and he would signal the engineer that everything was good on the back of the train, or if he saw a hot box back here on the train, that is, what a hot box is a wheel bearing that's overheating. So if he saw this, he would take his lantern, stick it out the window, and he would signal the engineer to stop the train so they could check it out. So this was the place. This was the tail end of the train. This is the place that it's been said all kids like. And I guess the main reason there is it's red. And it's got a little house sitting on top of it. I would like to thank everyone for watching tonight. We hope that you have enjoyed our magazine. Be sure and tune us in next time. We would also like to invite you to send in your comments and ideas for future shows. This is Jerry Stovall saying thank you and good night.